For more now on the Venezuelan elections, we are joined by George Ciccariello-Maher, who authored a book on the rise of Chavez and teaches political science at Drexler University in Philadelphia in the state of Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me.
What will the outcome of these elections tell us about the direction that Venezuela is going in?
Well, I think they have a lot to say, although they may be a bit difficult to read, because these are, after all, municipal elections, and so you will have the opposition winning possibly some of the larger municipalities in the cities, and you'll have the Chavistas winning the vast majority of the numerical brunt of these municipalities. The question will be, on the one hand, in the popular vote, which seems to be tending toward Maduro and toward the Chavistas, and will have a lot to say over whether or not the population as a whole thinks that Maduro is the person to lead forward Venezuela into the future of the Bolivarian revolution.
Will Maduro see such support as people wanting to preserve the legacy, the policies of his predecessor, Hugo Chavez?
Certainly, on the one hand, when Venezuelans, when Chavistas are voting, they're voting not only for Maduro, not only for the specifics of the situation, but they're also voting for a project. In other words, the Bolivarian Revolution, the project of Chavez. And just recently, the National Assembly, for example, approved what's called Plan Patria 2013 to 2019, which was a plan written out by Chavez for the deepening and the development and the continuing of this Bolivarian Revolution and its radicalization even. And so you have people voting for that. And you also have people voting for, sort of casting a vote of confidence in whether or not they think Nicolás Maduro is the one that will be able to lead this process forward.
You know, as you pointed out, opinion polls indicate that there will be no clear winner in this election. Venezuela is already a deeply divided country. If there is a close outcome, will it deepen even further the polarization that exists in the country?
I think over the summer, things were looking a bit shaky for the Chavistas. The economy was in a bit of rough shape. There was a full-on political attack from the opposition. And yet what we've seen in recent weeks, as your report mentioned, is the fact that Maduro has sort of gotten his feet under him and gone on the offensive against the opposition in this attack on speculative, parasitic capitalism. And this has really benefited him. And if you look at some of there are unreleased poll numbers that will make it look as though the Chavistas will come out relatively strongly in this election. And the real question will be whether or not they'll be able to seize some of the more opposition strongholds.
Right. We know that in most countries, local elections, municipal elections of the type we're seeing in Venezuela now, have a very low turnout. And I'm wondering, would that be the case in Venezuela, and what kind of impact would that have?
They tend to have a lower turnout. They certainly have a lower turnout than the presidential elections, and according to early indications today, the turnout will be relatively low, although within the realm of municipal elections, they'll be relatively high. What it tells us comparatively is whether or not people think that this is more than simply a municipal election. But one of the things that also needs to be borne in mind is that Chavistas, as well as opposition members, when they vote locally, they're also voting on local leadership. And so you could have someone who's perfectly happy with Chavez or with Maduro, and yet their local leader, their local Chavista candidate is someone that they don't trust or that they think is corrupt or inefficient. So you have a lot of different tendencies working back and forth, making this in the long run a difficult election to really judge in the aftermath.
Okay, sir. Thanks for joining us.